Morning folks, I'm Dave Canterbury with Self-Reliance Outfitters and the Pathfinder School. And what we're going to start discussing today is the pole lathe. The pole lathe that you see beside me here was built by Pete Hoffman from a couple different sets of plans that we kind of hodgepodge together to get what I wanted in a pole lathe. And I wanted something that was portable so it could be taken down into smaller components, packed into conveyance to take to events and things like that. I wanted something that was fully adjustable, and I wanted something that was robust. So we made this one out of pressure treated lumber. And I built the treadle portion of it yesterday. Pete built the whole lathe bed and the legs and everything and the poppets last week. And I've been playing with it a little bit here over the last couple of days to kind of get used to how it operates and how it runs. But right now I'm very limited because I only have one tool that I've been using on this lathe. And it is a large chisel that I picked up at an antique mall. And it didn't have a handle in it. It was just the chisel, and it was all rusted up. So I cleaned it up, I sharpened it up, and then I put a white oak handle in it off my shave horse in there. Got it driven in, and I've been using this as my practice tool. I'm going to have to make some lathe tools. I can make the tools to work this machine. I just need to understand which tools I need. And I've done quite a bit of research on this to find out that there's only a couple, three tools that you absolutely need to make this operate, which again makes it a good thing for Self-Reliance because it doesn't have a lot of necessity of accessories for it. You need a mallet that you can make out of wood to lock the poppets in place, and you need 2 or 3 tools that you can make easy enough if you understand how to forge metal. The precedence, or the pretense, excuse me, of this lathe is it is a reciprocating lathe. It has an engine above it that retracts with stored energy. And in this case, I've just used a piece of PVC, and we'll talk about that in a minute. Generally and traditionally, you'd use a spring pole or springing branch. I'm using a springing piece of PVC inside this building. And you wrap it around the piece. As you push down the treadle, it pulls down on your engine, and when the engine goes back up, it reciprocates the material the other direction. So as you push down, the material moves toward you, and that's when you cut. You release the tool or pull the tool away from the material as it reciprocates, and then as you push it down again, you put the tool in, and it cuts again. And this type lathe has been used for thousands of years to make lots and lots of things. So this tool, together with the shave horse, really gives you a very powerful combination of tools that you can use for wood crafting. So what I wanted to do today was I kind of wanted to walk through this lathe with you a little bit, show you how it's constructed, and then we're going to get a little bit more into how to use the lathe, the tools I'm going to have to make it work and things like that. But I do have a piece of material in here that I've been playing with, and I recommend that you don't go out and cut trees down to start playing with a lathe. I just took some extra 2x stock that I had over here, ripped it down the middle, took it in on the shave horse, took those 2x2s or 1.5 by 1.5s down to a semi-round, and I'm using those to practice and get the feel of the lathe. When I know what I'm doing, I've got the tools that I need and everything works good, then I'll go out and start playing with some hardwood stuff or some more types of green wood. So stay with me, we're going to take a look at this lathe right now. Okay, so let's talk first about what's called the bed of the lathe. This is the part that your material holders or your poppets move inside of and lock into to hold your material. And it's just 2 2x4s. And there's a slot built into the 2x4s here that are blocked off that the leg drops down into. So I can lift it off and drop it down. What that allows me to do is it allows me to take the legs completely off of this lathe to fold it down and put it inside a conveyance. Okay, so the leg construction of this lathe is very simple. It's all 2x4 construction, 2 angles going out, 1 flat across, coming up. Very simple design, very sturdy construction, but it's 1 2x4 coming up that locks into this bed that has stop blocks here and blocks inside the 2x4 bed to keep it from moving side to side. So it's very, very sturdy. Okay, so our poppets are very, very simple construction. What we have is we have a piece of all thread here that goes through the 2x4 with a bolt embedded in it here to give it a threading so it can tighten and loosen. And this is just your final tightening of the piece when it's locked into the lathe. And this whole thing is made from 2x4 construction with one mortise here, so that when you drop it down between the two boards that become your bed, you take a wedge, you slide it into that mortise, you hit it with a hammer, a wooden mallet, and it's locked in place and can't move. And you have two of those. One of them just has a point coming out of it. That's another piece of all thread, just beyond the tool rest. The other one has been bent by heating it up with a vise in my forge so that it has a handle crank to tighten it up. Once you get the two poppets in place and you've got them locked in and they're not moving, you can loosen them up to move them anywhere you want to. Now, the other components of this lathe beside the poppets is the engine itself. You also have a tool rest that lays up on top of here, and that's what these tool rests coming out here for, is so you can lay a tool rest here just above center line of your poppets so that you can put your tool in there to work the wood. And the closer that tool is to the wood and the least amount of space there is between this tool rest and your work, the better off you are, because the more stable that tool is going to be. All right? Now, the treadle portion of this lathe is also very simple. It's basically 1x6s that are ripped down to 1x3s that form an A with one piece coming out of the middle that's about 40 inches long. And you want this thing set up so that when it comes up and down, it hits this lathe bed. So you want it on top of something here, and you want it hinged. So I've got a 2x12 laying on the ground, and I've got hinges here and here that are connected to this A-frame when it goes up and down. So the next thing that you have to have is you have to have some type of an engine to operate your lathe. And traditionally it would have been a spring pole or a springy branch that would have come across and you would have connected to that. What I'm using here is just a piece of Schedule 20 PVC. I've got it tied off in 2 loops of rope. I have a piece of bank line tied around it here to connect to my lathe and treadle, and this gives me my engine. It's real simple, but it's real effective underneath this overhang. Okay, so locking material into this lathe, again, you've got one poppet that's loose and one that I pretty much leave pretty much stationary and just lock it in. You can move this or adjust it anywhere you want to center it on the lathe bed, however you want to do it. It just gives you adjustable length depending on the amount of material or the length of material you're putting in. Now what you're going to do is you've got 2 points of contact, and you're going to have to find the center of the piece that you're going to put in and just put some kind of an indention in there with a nail or some type of tool, and then come in and just put a drop of oil in each one of those, and that will just help it to spin free. Then you'll come in here, grab your engine rope, and you have to pay attention to which way you wrap it. If you're dyslexic like I am, you'll get this wrong about half the time. I take 3 wraps around and I look at which way it's going to pull when I push down on the pedal. Then I slide everything over, just like this, into my centers. Tap my poppet in place, and if I have to turn my crank to get it any tighter, I do. If I don't have to, I don't. But you want this thing to move fairly free when you're pushing on your engine. And when you push down, the material should be moving toward you. Okay? That gets you to the point where you're ready to work whatever material you have in the lathe. And then you're going to need a tool rest. And you just put that tool rest on. And what I've found is that I have to use a spacer when the material's larger to push this tool rest a little bit further away so that it doesn't catch on the work. You can hear that vibration. That's because the rope's hitting it. So if I put a spacer in there, the rope doesn't hit it. And if I'm working over here, I'm still right on top of my material with the tool. So guys, that was just a quick introduction to the spring pole lathe, how it works, how it's set up, and how it was built. Now we're going to make some tools that will help us do other things on this lathe, and we're going to turn more things out on this lathe to kind of get used to this tool and understand it to further our self-reliance when it comes to the art of woodcraft. I'm Dave Canterbury with Self-Reliance Outfitters and the Pathfinder School. I appreciate your views. I appreciate your support. I thank you for everything you do for our school, for our family, and for our business, for all of our sponsors, instructors, affiliates, and friends. And don't forget tonight at 10 o'clock, 9 Central on National Geographic, Dirty Rotten Survival. Thanks, guys.